This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the town of North Haven.
I'd like to convene the August 20th, 2024 North Haven Fire Commission meeting to order. I'd like everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to ask for the approval of the minutes of the Board of Fire Commission meeting, regular meeting, dated June 18th, 2024.
So moved.
Do I hear a second to the motion?
Second.
Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The Chief's report.
Good evening, all. We're going to cover quite a bit of period of time here because the last time that we met would have been in June. So our year-to-date calls, we'll start there. As of this time last year, we were at 3,047. This year, we're at 3,025. So again, the next few stats are going to cover a time period of June 18th until yesterday, which would be August 19th. So since that time, the FD has provided ALS interceptor transports on 27 different occasions. We had 26 incident responses to the highway, 216 incidents in which just an ambulance was responding, and we did not have to send a fire department asset. We had 158 occurrences, which account for 370 incidents in which there were multiple calls occurring at the same time. So between our last meeting and this meeting, 861 total incidents. So it's consistent with 43% of overlapping calls. So 158 occurrences accounting for 370 incidents. So again, it may be 3, 4, 5 incidents occurring at the same time.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure, 158 occurrences, which account for 370 total incidents, in which there were more than one incident occurring at the same time.
So, okay, so that's not the total is
It's
861, but you're saying the 158 occurred at the same time as another incident.
Well,
Got it.
158 occurrences, so 158 different times. One occurrence could be 4 incidents occurring at the same time, which is why it's 370 total incidents that were overlapping.
Okay.
One thing that we're starting to track again, because again, remember that we went to that new system, and so it's taken some time to start to make sure that there's some reliability in some of this data, is we're starting to track when there is no fire unit available again. And so since our last meeting until now, there was 10 different occurrences in which there was no fire unit available to be dispatched. Again, that's just dispatch. It doesn't mean that there was a delay. So no fire unit available, which in various cases here led to either no response at all of the fire department or a significant delay in response of the fire department. That covers the incidents regarding the budget. We're going to talk about the fiscal year close for last year because it closed on June 30th. So it looks, it's still in the process of being closed out by finance. It looks like we're going to be about $115,000 over in the overall budget. So what accounts for that? We can go over a few lines which certainly accounted for that overage. In no particular order, there was $8,000 overspent in the hydrant line. And that was due to the fact that we were going out and inspecting hydrants. We talked about this in a couple of meetings where the new LMS system allows us to track the hydrants that are being checked. We're supposed to do that twice a year because many of these hydrants hadn't been checked in quite some time. We found a number of repairs that were needed of our hydrants, which is great. but what it did is it caused that line to go over. $7,000 over in the gas and oil line as expected for utilities. Remember, this budget is made 18 months ahead of time from the time that it's spent. So, in June of this past year, we were preparing for that of December prior. So it's quite some time that we have to anticipate rate increases. $11,000 in heating plant maintenance, which is HVAC. $19,000 over in EMT training because we sent 2 firefighters to paramedic school. $85,000 over in our apparatus line.
How much?
$85,000. $33,000 of which was for the leasing of the apparatus, which again extended far beyond what we had expected. And $117,000 over in contractual replacement staffing line. However, it's worth noting that we are $38,000 under in the full-time personnel line.
Can you repeat those numbers?
Sure, $117,000 over in the contractual replacement staffing line.
And we were $38,000 under
In the full-time
full-time
personnel
line.
line. So obviously, when you add these up, we're far over $115,000, right? I mean, just the contractual staffing line alone. But what I'm doing is I'm giving you a picture of the lines that went significantly over. We had some that were this much under as well, but we try to balance it and make sure that, wherever we're over, we can make up for it elsewhere. But particularly when you're looking at a contractual replacement staffing line being $117,000 over, that's going to be hard to make up in any budget year.
So $52,000 was for apparatus repair.
$85,000 total in apparatus repair.
Minus the $33,000.
Minus $33,000
for the lease.
Yep.
So you're looking at
Yeah.
So you're looking at $52,000 in repairs of the existing fleet.
Correct.
What was the $19,000 for? $11,000 was for plant maintenance, and the other $19,000 was
EMT training.
EMT training. Thank you.
So we'll work with the Finance and First Selectman's office to prepare for the formalities of the budget that needs to take place because some of these lines were over, and I'll continue to work with him on that. He's aware of it. Obviously, we saw this coming a couple months prior to budget close, but nonetheless, I want to make sure the commission had a pretty good idea of where we were, and this should be reflected in your fiscal year budgets you're receiving as well.
So, Chief, I know we did not have a lot of input as far as our the current budget. Have these deficiencies been added into the current budget to your knowledge?
So the apparatus repair line we are not touching because we're anticipating with the influx of new apparatus we have coming that's going to stabilize that line and bring it down. Plus, we're going to be $33,000 less in having to lease an engine, right?
Right.
Gas and oil was increased. Heating plant maintenance, that was kind of a couple of, I wouldn't say one-time repairs, but incidents that occurred at the stations that we needed to repair HVAC. EMT training line was increased. And the contractual replacement staffing line, as we talked about, if we continue to staff 2 shifts at the minimum staffing, we're going to always have that line be, I wouldn't say unpredictable, but hard to budget for unless we overstaff compared to what our minimum staffing is.
So going to the 11 persons would have a dramatic impact on that.
100% yes, and we've shown that it does on the shift that it was most effective for and most present for, and now since I don't know if I have it in my notes here, but we've had 11 firefighters on shift since May 22nd in the second shift.
Okay.
So that covers the last year. So this year we are at 12.3% spent as compared to 10.4% last year. Quickly onto revenue. Our fire fees for last fiscal year closed over projections at $685,000. So while we can talk about some overages, we're certainly making up for it.
Which line was that from?
The
Fire fees.
Yep.
Fire fees.
Yep. 685, 584 is the exact number on that. This fiscal year so far, we're at 8509. Our ALS billing last year came out closed at 8509, $85,089 in total revenue, and this year we are at 3351.
So the what was budgeted? You
I
said
believe 600 in revenue.
Okay.
So of course, none of these fees
Offset
any of our losses. And Jen, going back to many of your comments and points in the past, so we'll be receiving some criticism, I'm sure, regarding the negative here.
Yeah.
But folks also need to take into consideration out of that 115,000 over budget. We were over budget 85,000 on the fees. So when you look at that, you're looking at about $30,000 differential that we would still be under. But it's certainly, when you start to guess about a budget, 8 months in advance, that's pretty damn good.
And is there any like insurance line or any kind of other revenue that comes to offset? I know they don't offset it in the budget itself, but are there things that are covered or that there's reimbursement for?
Yep. On the revenue side, I don't know where it goes in the budget, but there's if an individual is out in a workers' comp, there's 66 2/3 that come back to the town.
Mm-hmm. And any of that military leave, Chief?
Not typically.
No,
Not
nothing on
typically.
that.
No.
So out of this contractual, would it come out of it wouldn't come out of the replacement line, right? It would come out of the salary line that in terms of what you're getting reimbursed for?
Well, the problem is it doesn't really come out of anywhere because it's not impacting our budget. But the 66 2/3 is intended to replace. My understanding is to replace a firefighter's salary.
Okay.
But again, we're not only paying the salary, we're paying the time and a half if it incurs overtime as well. And just a quick point of order, I did just look. The fire fees were projected, I believe, at $500,000 last year. So it's actually substantially higher.
185,000.
Okay, so we were 185 over.
But we were just about $5,000.
185, 584.
It's about $5,000 under on the ALS billing. So nonetheless,
how much under on the
about 5,000.
About 5,000.
So just keep it in mind. That's all.
Okay.
A couple of contributing factors on the staffing shortages, because again, that's what drives that contractual staffing line. Just looking over some of the long-term absences that we had for this past fiscal year. We had one member on long-term sick leave from January 2nd until May 27th. One member on long-term sick leave from May 15th to August 5th. Member on injury leave from February 27th to June 3rd. Another member on sick leave for about a month from March to April. Member on military leave for about 6 weeks. And a member on sick leave went out on July 25th and remains out to present day. So certainly we anticipate some long-term absences, and there's others besides that. That's just what's occurred really since January. So that covers the budget. In terms of the fire marshal report, you were all provided with that, and a few things worth just making sure that we point out in that. Total inspections, July, 65 inspections, 2 plan reviews. The summer is typically slower for plan reviews. We expect that. In the fall, it'll start picking up. 51 permits, and then you can see here record requests and public inquiries, and we did have the fire marshal's office out to one scene for a fire investigation in the month of July. Otherwise, nothing else really jumps out in terms of the fire marshal's report, and unless you have any questions, that concludes the chief's report.
One quick question. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on it. So the budget, we're doing fiscal year, but all of these reports are calendar year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Chief, we've all been aware of a significant busy month this month that you've had, and most recently with the train incident on Saca Point Road, major accident on the highway. I had contacted you that day, and you had indicated that you had a significant call volume on that one particular day. If I'm not mistaken, I think you said there was 26 calls that one day. it seems like, I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, we hear sirens all the time and our apparatus going out. So our shifts are busier and busier on a daily basis. And that was just one day. And then today with that, major happening on Cloudland Road, I don't know, that was a police incident, but I'm sure we had our paramedics there, part of the SWAT team and other personnel. How are the firefighters holding up with all of this activity?
Sure. So it's a good question. So they typically enjoy staying busy, and they certainly have had a busy summer, and we have support systems in place if it's needed. But they're all doing okay.
How many trucks do you typically send like to an accident on the highway?
So on the highway, we are, as we've talked about a few times here, your typical accident in the highway, we are sending both career engines and the rescue, and we're dispatching a volunteer engine. There are some variables, right? That's not 100% absolute. And then if the volunteer engine arrives in an appreciable amount of time, we'll clear up one of the career engines as soon as we can to free it up for the rest of the town. But we've had to shift from that because we used to be able to rely on a volunteer engine to back us up and to provide some traffic cover. And unfortunately, the time delay right now is making it a little hazardous for us. So we had to change that run card and start to dispatch more career apparatus in order to make sure that we can protect that scene when it's needed. Because quite honestly, the first few minutes of the scene until you establish a traffic pattern is some of the most tenuous on a highway.
I know that we have, a number of us had received some correspondence from a resident, in particular pertaining to that subject. I know we're out of order here as far as the agenda, but I think it's pertinent. The suggestion was that the state have some dump trucks or whatever it might be that would be readily available in order to protect the apparatus in lieu of putting an $800,000 apparatus or even an older apparatus that we might have. And we're all aware that one of our apparatus was struck by a distracted driver on the highway and was out of service for well over a year. Chief, would you be kind enough to speak to what the state has, if any, conversation about assisting fire departments on the highway on a statewide basis with blocking using state vehicles, and how realistic is that to happen?
Yes.
Before he speaks this, I was going to just share this letter
Yeah.
with Mary
Oh, sure.
Jane and Pat, because I think what this letter was we were CC'd on it, but it was written to Dave Yaccarino and Paul Ciccarelli,
Yeah.
asking them to
Look into that.
look into creating what you talked about a couple of meetings ago. And the chief can then weigh in on whether, what his thoughts are around that. But he wasn't actually talking about a dump truck. I think that's been the thing that people have talked about. I think he's talking more about using what they're using now when they have construction sites and they're protecting the construction workers and having some kind of response based on area to alleviate some of the burden on the municipalities. So
Yeah. I think he was thinking about those big containers that have either water or sand or whatever's in them. I think on those shock absorber kind of.
yeah.
I'm not even quite sure what they call those things. But have you had any discussion, Chief, with anyone from the state on this as far as safety? And I know you're involved with the state with the state Fire Chiefs Association. Has this subject been brought up by that association as well?
Yeah, sure. There's a few different fronts that are taking place right now. We're not alone. There's several municipalities that are stressing the same concerns, several fire chiefs. There is some conversation about updating a highway safety policy, highway safety guide, if you will. That was last updated, I believe, in 2004, 2006, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so there's a contingent of fire service leaders throughout the state that are going to, we're hopefully going to start working with DOT and Homeland Security, which is what the fire service falls under, to update that policy. We don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know for sure what that's going to result in, but nonetheless, those are the higher level conversations that are taking place. But we're not alone. If you do a quick Google search, you'll find quite often fire apparatus getting struck on the highways. So we're hoping it's distracted driving is what it is. That's what's changed. You know, if you say to yourself, well, why is this happening all of a sudden? It's distracted driving. There are not timely DOT assets available to departments in the state, particularly by region. The current guideline right now for the DOT to assemble a response of crash trucks is a scene that exceeds 2 hours. So obviously that's quite a long time. So we're hoping to have some more news on that. It's going to take months. Unfortunately, nothing moves fast. I would encourage those that have an interest to reach out to their elected state officials, because that's the direction that this needs to go. This is not a problem that North Haven can fix.
And when you look at the amount of highway we service,
Right.
between the Merritt, Route 10, 91, both sides, we have significant highway coverage. And as our reports indicate, you know, we get called to the highway very, very often. And that last accident that, I don't know if it was the last accident, but the accident that we were talking about earlier affected both sides of the highway with multiple vehicles. So it's really dangerous for our firefighters. And I would love to find some solution to protect them other than having our apparatus out there. But as the chief says, I don't know how that's going to happen. I certainly appreciate our resident, Mr. George, who has really, you know, been on top of a lot of these subjects and then forwarded this information on to us. But we appreciate his comments, and we echo them. We would love to find a way to protect our firefighters without jeopardizing our equipment.
Right.
And that's the crux of his email. But thank you for that explanation. Any other comments regarding the chief's report? We already talked about correspondence. Any other correspondence that anyone has received?
Well, I received verbal questions about the front door of the fire department. Is that lock going to be repaired?
Yep, parts are ordered. It's taken a while.
Okay.
The vendor's been working with us quite diligently to try to get that replaced.
Because some of my residents have tried to bring food over here after hours and they're not able to
Yeah.
get in.
I know.
And they're concerned about safety, actually, if somebody were to go into the front door.
Well, the answer is always a call 911.
Yeah.
But yes, it certainly could be a delay, and that's why the phone number is there. But we're hoping the vendor can secure the parts for this soon.
Keep in mind, when they have food in their hands, it's hard to call 911.
Right. No, I know. And that's the important part, bringing the food, right?
Exactly. Well, it's very exciting that the fire department received the $300,000
Mhm.
for the renovation. How is that information kind of distributed through the department? Do you send out announcements saying, look what we got, or how do we?
Nope. We just we find out the membership and so forth finds out through the officers. The officers pass it on to the members, and so everybody in the department is pretty well aware of it. Yeah.
Well, I think the media has really publicized that in the local papers, and I don't know if the Register picked it up, but I certainly read it in the local paper, and I think our deputy chief Aubert was featured on the front page
Yes.
of one of the local papers that articulated the fact that Quinnipiac was, in lieu of taxes, made that contribution to the town, and that money was then earmarked for the renovation of the second floor to accommodate bunk accommodations for male and females, a kitchenette, and as well as bathroom and a living room, I'm assuming, or
Day room.
Day
yeah.
room.
All-purpose room.
yeah. So hopefully that's sufficient enough as far as finances are concerned to accomplish that goal. I don't know what it's gonna cost.
So I ask because I receive a lot of questions where I live from the seniors about the fire department activities. And I was not aware that we had the gift at the time I was asked. So I thought it might be nice if some kind of a courtesy statement is sent out to the fire commissioners in advance.
Yeah, to be honest with you though, we found out within days of that article. It happened that fast.
Well, I heard about it the middle of July, that it was coming,
Yeah,
but then I saw nothing in the paper, so.
yeah. There was speculation for a while. I didn't know how much we could really get out there in terms of if they suddenly pulled back or had a change of heart. I didn't want to get anybody's hopes up.
So
So
that's really great.
Yeah, I think Mike Frieda was in communication with the president or the finance director or whomever it might have been at Quinnipiac. And I think the chief is right. Wasn't quite sure what the amount was going to be and where it was going to be earmarked for, or what it was
Yes.
going to be
there
earmarked
were
for.
multiple projects at one point.
Correct.
And it was
That's
not
what I
necessarily
heard.
going to be
Right.
just for this.
That's
right?
what I was
So
surprised.
I was very appreciative of Mike's involvement in steering these monies toward the fire department.
Yes.
Quinnipiac has been generous in the past with our training center tower, and certainly it's deeply appreciated that Quinnipiac saw fit to and Mike to designate these monies toward the fire department. It's been almost 12 years since we renovated the fire stations. I know people keep on talking about it like it was yesterday, but it's 12 years.
Yes.
And all of those renovations have been kind of now aged in place. That upstairs has never been part of the renovation. So that was gutted and it remained gutted. And so I think this is going to be a welcome amount of monies that we will have an opportunity to renovate that with the intent to co-share, if you will, as we do at this station, full-time firefighters and volunteers. There's no way, shape, or form that we're looking to replace the volunteers that are there. They will continue to be there as long as we're able to do so, is what I understand. Is that correct, Chief?
Let's hope so.
Okay.
And I just think,
When is the work to start?
I don't have a timeline. We haven't even had any further discussions or meetings since that article. To be completely
I'm not even
honest
sure
with
if the monies have been received.
you.
yet.
Right. There's a meeting being put together for next week with the building department at that location, but it has not been finalized yet. And so that'll be kind of the first meeting, if you will. But in terms of the funds received, I don't know.
I will commit to you, our commission, that once I learn about when the monies have arrived, and if there is a renovation committee or whatever, I will make sure that we're all made aware of that.
yeah, the one thing, just to follow up on what Pat said, I think if you hear like something that's gonna be in the paper about the fire department, it would help, because a couple of people called me and I was like, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I personally
yeah.
didn't know about it
Either
either.
until you saw the
Yeah,
paper.
yeah.
Okay.
I knew that there was discussions
Okay.
of a contribution in lieu of taxes, but as the chief said, we weren't sure where it was going to go.
Right.
Because they have used many of those dollars for playscapes at the schools and some other projects in town. So we were unsure as to whether or not it would have come to the fire department until it was announced.
Some surprises are great.
I'm sorry?
Some surprises are great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that kind of surprise.
And I have one more question. Have you received any email on the website for the fire commissioners?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's not a hot item?
It is not. I know we were anxious to have email addresses in the website, but no communications that have been received as far as I'm concerned.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other correspondence? Old business of the fire department.
Old business, few things. So the two apparatus that have been ordered for quite some time are in the state of Connecticut and being equipped, fitted, if you will, by our vendor in Waterford. We anticipate delivery of both of those within the next 30 days, and not only that, but likely to be in service within the next 30 days. So it was easier to bring them out here and to have them equipped at our local vendor where we can send some personnel out and look at how things are. When you think about the amount of equipment that needs to go on these engines, that's the brackets and so forth are not part of the building of the apparatus. That's kind of a little more customized afterwards based on department needs and what the department has for equipment, which could vary. And so that's taking place now, and we should have those in place soon. We relinquished the leased apparatus on August 1st. So we've held off on keeping that in service, and that was subsequently returned to the local vendor as well. Regarding future apparatus, and I won't keep talking about this because it is still pretty far away, but if you recall, there was an order placed at the beginning of 2024 for an additional engine and an additional quint. We don't expect the quint, or the ladder, if you will, until late 2025, and we don't expect the engine until late 2026. But again, we placed the order to capture the price at where it was, because the pricing on fire apparatus, depending on what article you want to look at, looks like it's going up about 20% a year. So that's quite substantial. So we wanted to capture the lower price and get way ahead on the build, because they do take about 3 years, as we've seen with these, to arrive. So more to come as those dates draw closer, and that's what I have for old business.
Can you, when the 2 engines actually get delivered, can you just send us a,
They'll probably be
Right.
separate, but I'll let you know when the first one arrives. Yeah.
okay, that'd be great.
And Chief, the existing fleet, how are we doing with that? Obviously, we saw the report as far as repairs were concerned, and I think we were looking at $52,000 in repairs. How are we doing with keeping them on the road?
We're struggling like we have been. The list on these apparatus that need to get repaired is quite substantial. We brought one to our vendor only a couple of weeks ago, expecting it to be out, and the vendor called and said he can't even get to it this week. Come pick it up. And so it's still, that was 2 weeks ago. So the list that we have of repairs on apparatus just continue to grow. We have to really balance the needs of the town. We can't have more than 1 or 2 apparatus out at a time. And so we're looking forward to these engines and stabilizing the fleet.
Good.
Any, out of that amount that was for repair, I know that the administrative vehicle has been something that's been requested and not approved, right? Is that also
Out of that line, yes.
It's in that line.
impacting that line?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know so much about this year. The year prior, it certainly did. I'd have to go back and look about this year. It's less about cost, to be honest with you. It's more about operations and the fact that when they are down,
Yeah.
So we're okay, but we need to start replacing those vehicles as well. Like you said, we've asked for at least one every single year.
Well, it's not only the operations, and which is important, because when your car is down, you have no other car to
We
put.
do have a spare admin car now, but that's recent within the last year.
Right. And then when you look at the amount of wear and tear on these vehicles, and from the safety standpoint, as much as we attempt to maintain the brakes and the tires and so on and so forth, but just the mileage and the wear and tear of those cars going the way they go, they can't last as long as our SUVs would last. So it's a challenge for us every year when we request to replace an admin car, and it gets rejected. So we're hopeful, and I'm sure one will be added in this upcoming budget, which will be upon us very soon. It's crazy to think that way, but we're almost September now, and in December, here we are. We're going to start the budget process.
Yeah.
And it's just hopeful that we'll be able to be in a better financial position. The town will be, in order to honor some of our requests.
Has the second set of turnout gear been ordered?
I believe it's been ordered. Yes.
One other question, because you just said that we do have a spare, and so we're no longer on a regular basis borrowing
A police
a
car.
police car.
Correct.
Correct.
That's not the way for us
Yeah.
to go.
So that admin vehicle will be able to fit the equipment that the deputies and or the chief have when their car is in the shop.
Okay.
You don't have the red car anymore?
I think the red car is gone.
I
Probably
haven't seen it.
It's probably in red car heaven. God only knows. Any other old business? New business of the department.
New business, I believe you have a few motions before you.
Yeah.
Those are all standard contractual motions.
To make those in.
Please.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, Meryl.
I make a motion to elevate firefighter Ben Dispoto, Sarah Pucci, Paul Nugent, and Raul Sedendo from grade B to grade A effective August 6, 2024.
Can I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Is there any question on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Got me the second one too?
Yeah, please.
I make a motion to elevate firefighter Michael Panic from grade C to grade B effective August 5th, 2024.
May I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Just a moment. Is he on the agenda?
He may not be. Might have been a late addition.
I'm sorry.
He may not be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, we're not supposed to.
Well, we can make a motion to add.
We can.
Yeah.
I'll accept the motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to add the agenda item.
And that is, who's the firefighter?
Michael Panic.
From grade C to grade B,
Yeah.
effective
August 5th.
August 5th, 2024.
So we're just adding that to the agenda.
Correct. Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. Please,
Now you gotta read it.
now you can read it.
Okay, I make a motion to elevate
Thanks.
firefighter Michael Panic from grade C to grade B effective August 5th, 2024.
Can I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Any question on the motion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Additional new business I have is bringing to the attention of the commission that when we operate and we respond to area towns for mutual aid, the radio systems vary from town to town, despite the fact that 10 years ago, probably now, 8 years ago, we upgraded the radio system in town, and with doing so, purchased several dozen portable radios. We could not at that time purchase portable radios, as many that were needed. There's two different versions, right? One version will be able to talk to all of our neighbors. One version really can only talk to those of us here in town. And so that's presented some operational difficulties when we respond out of town because we can't always be in direct communication with our neighbors. And so Deputy Chief Bisson wrote a grant to FEMA for an Assistance to Firefighters grant award and was subsequently awarded $75,000 to purchase, now we're looking at about 10 to 12 portable radios. And
That's
so
great.
just if you've seen that in the newspaper, that's what that is all about. I thank Deputy Chief Bisson for doing a great job writing that grant, and we are in the process of getting those radios added to the fleet in the next quarter or so.
Well, certainly thank you to Chief Bisson for writing that grant. And no, I was not aware of the grant or the application for it. But I'm absolutely and totally in agreement that it's necessary for our neighbors to be able to communicate with us and we with them. I just think about, the fires when we had such a tragedy, when we had numerous fire departments from around the area all converging on that fire and not having the ability to communicate is just a safety hazard. So many thanks to the Deputy Chief for his initiative and Chief for you. And I look forward to those radios being in service. Thank you for that. Anything else, Chief?
New business? No.
Okay. Good of the fire department.
Go to the department. I got a few things. We already talked about Quinnipiac. If you didn't notice in your tax bill this past year, there was a flyer for recruitment of volunteer firefighters and also advertising our Community Connect. That was what I'm going to call a resounding success because we've had 6 inquiries to
Wow.
become a volunteer firefighter, which is phenomenal. That's pre-COVID. And we actually have 4 applications right now working through the process. I haven't had 4 applications for a volunteer in probably 3 or 4 years at the same time.
Exciting.
So that's very good, and it shows that it was effective. It was money well spent. Even though it was color, it was still, I think, eye-catching. And nobody can say that we're not trying our best to do what we can to spread the message that we need volunteers in this town. So we anticipate doing the same next year. There was a conversation made about putting it in the sewer bill as well, but again, there is an expense to this, and we'll have to wait and see if it's something that we do or not.
How do they distinguish, like, so my tax bill goes directly to my
Yeah.
mortgage company.
Mine as well. So I
So
didn't
I
see,
never
I didn't
saw
see
it.
it either.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
is there a way for that to get
we
sorted out?
this is existing that the assessor's office is doing, and so we just jumped on with whatever. There's other things that are sent in there as well from Public Works and so forth. So
I didn't get
Yeah.
car taxes this year.
Yeah,
Oh.
right.
Okay.
Well, we certainly, for those that are watching our commission meeting on North Haven Public TV, we certainly invite all persons who are interested in becoming a volunteer for our fire department to contact our chief or our deputy chiefs for information about how to do so. We welcome that opportunity for you to donate your time and help to protect our town. We've been fortunate throughout the years. In the past, we had over 115 volunteers that supplemented our full-time firefighters. We're down dramatically, probably under 20. Is that the number, Chief?
Yep.
At this point, which has been a detriment for our department. So we absolutely depended upon volunteers and welcome them to come back to participate as a volunteer for our department. So again, please contact fire headquarters, either a chief's office or a deputy chief's office for further information.
extension 140.
There you go. Extension
One quick
140.
question: do you know? I'd just be curious because I'm like data, but do you know if those volunteers came from car taxes versus mortgage tax, like taxes on your house? Like if one is more effective than the other?
No idea.
I think we can ask the
I
volunteers.
love it. No,
No.
probably not.
Well, because if who knows?
Yeah.
Some homeowners may not be as willing to volunteer as someone who's get their car tax bill.
I love it. Anybody, there's no one here for public comments. I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Thank you. I'd like to reconvene the Tuesday, August 20th, 2024 North Haven Fire Commission meeting to order. Is there any further business coming before this commission? Here are none. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.
Hi.
Yeah, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.